Derby County are edging closer to one transfer move while another transfer target does not play for his club, and the third one is available on a free transfer. Now Derby County are edging closer to the deal to sign 24-year-old Japanese midfielder Koki Seoto after they met the evaluation of Belgian second tier side Lamel. Now Derby County also hold a strong interest in that of Lewis Travis, and that deal looks to be edging a little bit closer as it goes as well, with him being out of the Blackburn Rovers squad just yesterday. Now obviously for Derby County there is one final option which is out there at the moment, and that comes in the form of Isaac Hayden. Will Derby County get these deals done? Will they get them over the line? That is going to be very, very interesting to keep across the course of the next couple of weeks. But it looks as if Derby County will be finalising Seoto over the course of the next week. But will he be fit? Will he be available? That's what we're going to get into in this video. Now obviously those of you who have not done so already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. Yesterday I dropped my match day vlog and I did a match reaction of Derby County versus Coventry when Derby County were 5-3 losers in that game, and it was very, very disappointing. But shall we take a look into the transfer latest at Derby County? Now let's start off with the most important news. Derby County are leading the way and are discussing the deal with Seoto's camp as they head towards the final talks with Lamel. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this one does shape out. Now, Koki Seoto played for QPR last season and was a massive part of why they finished where they finished. He was very, very influential on the ball and caused a lot of problems. Now, every game he played for QPR last season was off the left. I do believe he scored up against Derby County, and it is going to be very, very interesting to see how this one does shake out. Now, it was reported that he was valued at around £5 million after his season with QPR last year, and Derby County were bidding along with the likes of Birmingham, QPR, FC20 and obviously themselves. There is a little bit of a murmur that Stoke City are interested as well, but ultimately we have no official word on Stoke. Now, it was reported today that Derby County's bid has met the evaluation and are now front runners for the 24-year-old as talks continue with the Belgian club and personal terms begin to be discussed with his agent and so on and so forth. Now, there is some bad news in regards to this, in the fact that Koki Seoto suffered a shoulder injury towards the back end of his time with that of QPR, and he's been out for 120 days, which I believe is equal to about 4-ish months. And yes, it's disappointing that he's been out injured, but ultimately, has he been training? We don't know. All we know is that he hasn't played for Lamel so far this season. But I think it could also be a case of they're protecting their asset and don't necessarily want him to play, where he could pick up a bigger and worse injury, which is obviously sort of something which they will have to sort of keep an eye out for when you are trying to move a player on. You want your players to be fit and available. You want them to be able to go straight out the door, because as we saw with Derby County last season, with Connor Washington picking up his injuries, Joe Ward picking up his, we couldn't then move those players on, and it made it really, really difficult. Now, in other news in regards to that of football and all things related to Derby County, Lewis Travis was not playing for Blackburn Rovers today, which is obviously a very, very interesting move just a few days after he asked to leave the club. And obviously, in that respect, it is very, very interesting to see sort of how this is all going to shake out for me, because don't get me wrong, I'm not going to turn around and say that Lewis Travis has refused to play or anything like that, but I do think it's probably a circumstance where they've probably turned around and not allowed him to play in that sense, with him sort of opening that door to a potential move to Derby County after the offer was put forward to him just over a week ago. Now, it is going to be interesting to see how quickly these deals can get done. We are also waiting for an update on Sturm Graz right back Max Johnston. So far, we don't have anything sort of done in that regard, and there is a lot of sort of murmurs and talks potentially claiming that Panathinaikos are putting in a bid and things like that, but we are currently waiting for Derby County's third bid to be sort of made public essentially. We are waiting for that to happen, and as it stands right now, we don't have an update from Anthony Joseph, who is the guy who's kept across this so far. I believe the last update was maybe 3 or 4 days ago now, where it was reported that a bid would be getting made, and obviously at the moment we haven't heard that bid so far, and we're going to have to sort of wait and see how that sorts itself out across the course of the next few days. And I think if you have the introduction of Lewis Travis, you have the introduction of players of that ilk, I think it makes you sort of much better, in my opinion, and hopefully that's something that Derby County can sort out over the course of the next few weeks. Because if you bring in Max Johnston, you bring in Koki Seoto, you bring in Lewis Travis, you instantly make the team better. You can let go of players like Osborne, you can let go of a player in other positions as well, and if you bring in Johnston, you can let go of a Joe Ward, you can have Nine Niambi as that second string player essentially, and obviously you then have that option of Dion Sanderson not playing in a back three. But we're going to have to wait and see sort of how that works out over the course of the next few weeks. We're obviously in a position where Derby County are still building into this season, and players ultimately aren't fit, and there's still a lot of work to do from Derby County and from the squad that they have at the moment. And obviously we're awaiting the introduction of Rhian Brewster, we're awaiting the introduction properly of Bobby Clark and things like that, and it is going to be very interesting to see how everything all shakes out once those players are fit and available. Now, John Eustace went back to tried and trusted with Ozo, Thompson and Adams, and it didn't really go to plan for him yesterday. But there is another midfielder potentially in the pipeline in the form of Isaac Hayden. Now, he is a free transfer at the moment, spent last season on loan at, I believe it was Pompey from Newcastle, and over the course of the last few weeks has been released on a mutual agreement from Newcastle United, where he now finds himself as a free transfer. And I'm really hoping that Derby County can sort of, I'm not going to say they need to get the deal done in terms of Isaac Hayden, but they certainly need to look at bringing in an Isaac Hayden, a Lewis Travis, and making that midfield a lot more sensible, because from what we've seen so far this season, it has not been that great in my personal opinion, and there's a lot of work still to do for me. And hopefully that work does get done over the course of the next few weeks before the transfer window closes. But it's one of those things where we've got to be very, very careful in what players we bring in and where they come from and where they go to, because obviously Derby County find themselves in a very, very difficult position. Now, obviously, on the guards of midfielders and wingers and even right backs, Derby County have a lot of work to do, and Dion Sanderson hasn't lived up to expectation. In fact, he's probably hit his expectation in not being that great. Danny Bart hasn't hit the level yet, in my opinion. And in terms of everybody else, fitness levels just really isn't there. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that is going to shake out. Now, obviously, we've got to wait for these deals to be confirmed. Once they are, we will be live over on YouTube. So if you have not done so already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. But I'll catch you in my next video. So let me know your thoughts down below.